mind blowing. So how did C how did C come to your vision? How did it all happen? Please use the microphone.
Now, thank you. I'm sure my team loves to hear that.
Oh,
I have a very good taste for
I
picking my
can't.
team.
I didn't even mention the cinematographer yet, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's a whole other story, indeed.
Well, we're going to talk about him or her or whoever it was.
Yeah, I started traveling.
It's the connection. Okay, it's fine.
I started traveling when I was 17. I left home when I was 17, and I started traveling around the world for about 2 years. I came back after 2 years. And what I remember from that trip, you know, reflecting on it 10 years later, when I wanted to make this movie, was that I would go to places and I would meet people that I had the feeling that I already knew, or I would go to places that I could have not known because I'd never traveled before. I was 17 and I came from a very small village in Belgium, and I never went anywhere else than France and Germany on the holidays with my parents when I was small. So when I actually went into the world, I came to certain places that somehow were so familiar to me, and I always wondered why. And when I started traveling in Asia, I came to this to know about reincarnation. And I started to kind of put one and one together, and I thought I might have just had another life in this place or met these people in another lifetime. And I wanted to do something with that idea, and so that's how Portable Life started.
You know, an idea starts somewhere, and it started in this wide focus of reincarnation. I mean, this is like a rites of passage story turned on its head through reincarnation. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Obviously, it's a lyrical poem. But the writing, it's so precise, surreal, and fantastical, and even narrative, dare I say. I know you mentioned the other day, it doesn't feel narrative, but it has a lyrical narration to it. How did you find, you know, and certain motifs, like the horses in there, and I mean, it's just, how did you find the writing? How did you write this film? It's just such a lyrical poem.
I think it's gone over many years of traveling and making notes, and it all comes from me. It's just like things that just made sense for me, and I always wondered if they could make sense to anybody else. But I thought, you know, if they make sense to me, I'm a human being, they might make sense to someone else too. But it's all very intuitive. And yeah, I was also on a very kind of like spiritual journey at the time that I wrote and directed the film and filmed the film. And I think that, yeah, that definitely kind of made its mark. I had a lot of like big life questions at the time.
Well, you were traveling in the circus of the soul, I would imagine.
Exactly, yes, exactly.
With Labyrinth Man, and, you know, I mean, the only sense is nonsensical. It's amazing. I mean, I'm just picking some of the things that I noticed, and it's like, I don't know, I mean, visually it's so pleasing. It's almost, you know, reminds me, is the same power I felt when I watched Wings of Desire for the first time. In that poetic nature in some form. And when did you know you had a film? Like, you know, because it takes a little while to develop it. What was there some one moment where you just knew C was your character and you let her travel? Like Tarantino has this essence where he gets the character and lets them run free through his mind. Is that how this was written?
No, it was written actually in a really traditional way.
Oh, really?
Because
Wow.
I came, yeah, it's very funny. I came from art academy, and when I came from art academy, I said, yeah, but I'm, you know, in the next few years I'm gonna make a movie, and everybody said, yeah, sure. Everybody wants to make a movie, and I said, no, I'm gonna make a movie, and I had it so in my head. I didn't doubt it for a second, but you know. statistically, it was a really weird thing to think and to say, but I had no idea about really what I was saying. That's how I felt it, and I believed in it. Because in Holland at the time, in Belgium, there were only 7 movies made a year.
Wow.
And they were made usually by men, and they all came from Film Academy, and I came from Art Academy. I had no idea how to write a screenplay, how to do production. I had no idea about filmmaking at all. I made some video films, like short films, 5 minutes before and stuff. And but somehow, I don't know, I made it happen, and I was the first woman that year, and one of the 7 people that actually manifested the film. But to manifest the money for the film, I had to write a screenplay. Now, I never done anything like that before, so I thought that you have to write a screenplay in a certain way, you know, like in the traditional way. Like so I did that. I wrote an actual road movie, and it was more like some sort of Easy Rider, but then with a girl, and on a motorbike, like a kind of a moped kind of thing. And in the end, I just made something completely different from it, because during the filming, some things happened to me around me and in my life, in my environment, that kind of like made a big change in my head. And I had a very big kind of spiritual experience just before I started shooting. And I just thought, I can't just leave this information out. So while I was shooting, I basically turned around the whole script and I cut out all the dialogue, because the scenes were all very traditionally filmed with dialogue, and the guy comes in the room and then, you know, this and that happened, and it's all like from A to Z. Z, from A to Z. So it was all very narrative, but then in the edit, I was very displeased with, with what it was, because the first edit, the first rough cut, was a traditional film from A to Z, which you completely can't find anymore. Oh, and wow. And then because I wasn't pleased with the images, and I shot second camera, we started to cut out all the images that we didn't like and all the dialogue that I thought was pathetic, even though I wrote it myself.
No, that's an amazingly courageous thing to do.
And then I just thought, fuck it. But I didn't understand the consequences of what I did at the time, because I'm still kind of like dealing with the consequences now, because now people think I can only make that kind of films.
Well,
which is obviously not true. You know, it was a very clear choice at the time to do that, but it was a radical choice, and it wasn't approved by everybody in the film industry. There were a lot of people that said, "What the fuck? You know, is this where the Dutch and the Belgian people give their money to?"
Well, I mean, I think you put yourself in the pantheon of Haradowski or you know, filmmakers that make lyrical poems, I think, are more important, because cinema is not, in fact, in the dialogue. It's in the image. The dialogue, when it came in 1928, has taken over, obviously. But, you know, and obviously you went against the grain, but you made the picture you wanted to make, which is an extremely courageous, inspirational thing to do. And, you know, it's not influenced. I mean, it's influenced, but it doesn't seem, it's like your story. It's a personal thing. And I was going to ask you that it looked like it changed. It looked like you had something, and it became something else. And, you know, to me, it feels like a dream, but it feels like a road picture, a rites of passage for this girl. I can still sense all of that. And fuck the film industry, you know, and I'm sure you'll find your way back through the industry. I think we were talking about the industry. And I think you made as you said, you made this progressive choice. And coming from an art academy, I'm sure that reflected in this film. And now you're making documentary films or something like that. What are you doing with yourself now?
In the past 5 years, I wrote 4 new scripts. I'm trying to, I'm gonna make some more movies, yes. probably a little bit more less fragmented than this one, but yeah, I always I agree with you that film is in the first place a story told by pictures, and yes, and not just a story. You know, it's a visual art. So I find that very important, and I will continue exploring the medium in that way, in an experimental way. But maybe my storytelling will be a little bit more less fragmented. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
think
for this story, it was good because in the end, it became pretty personal, the film, because I was in search for that story more than, and so C became someone that was in search for a story, and more than there was a story told. So it's a girl dreaming and remembering, and also what's the voiceover in the beginning. You know, the past is a country that you can visit. And it's all a memory, and it's all her memories of this incredible trip that she made around the world, and where she encountered people that she might have known in a different lifetime. And actually, in the end, you also get the explanation on in which way she was related to those people. So yeah.
well, you know, there's a line in the film where you say, I think it was the dreams, it's the dreams and the frames. I mean, I've thought that was reflective of, was it a film metaphor, or what was it? Because it seems like that's what it really was. It was a dream told in frames. It's a beautiful metaphor. I just had one more question for you before we retire this incredible. Can we get this film online? Can people watch it somewhere?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna try it online next month, because the 5 years of the producer's rights are finished now. So
Tunes. It's called Portable Life. Fleur, what a magical experience. You know, we're filled and exploding in a ball of light. We are proud to know and to have been blessed to have your art piece shown here. Please keep making cinema and marry the naysayers. You know, add whatever you need to add. But this film is a lyrical poem, and I know that we will go back and watch it at least another couple of times, and I hope we get a chance to. Thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you so much for having me.
All right, hear the love in all that you do, and remember to ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That is how the light gets. Exactly. So go out and make something. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Forget the plans, remember the dreams, and go out and live your dreams. Hear the love in all that you do. This is Radio Tulum.